Hey, brother teacher here. I was thinking about relationships, couples, married and not married, and the question of how do you convey your feelings and your thoughts within your relationship without coming to blows verbally uh, and even physically in some instances. How do you talk to your mate, to your other half, your better half, your boo, whoever it may be? Well, how you don't talk to your mate is going to be the first thing that I want to address. First of all, let me preface this by saying this. I understand, I comprehend that oftentimes people, we get into predicaments when we move too fast into a relationship with another human being. We do. We did get we get into trouble, all types of trouble, because we didn't think it through. And let's be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we get into relationships because he looks good. She's beautiful. Drop dead gorgeous. She's the best thing that I've ever seen. I love her. And she'll say the same thing oftentimes as well. I love him. Mama, you just don't know. You ought to see him. Or she's talking to one of her good friends. This guy is so handsome. But are these the reasons, even though they might hold some merit on some level, but are these indeed the core reasons that we should hook up, get into a relationship, and maybe a potential live-in situation or a marriage even? No. Aesthetically, you may be a very handsome man, or you may be a very beautiful, very pretty woman. But that's not what should draw you to an individual. That's just a secondary thing. That's just a given. That's an extra thing. What should draw you to that potential partner is what they represent. Now, if you don't like very much in terms of representation, if you don't like very much and you're not looking for very much in the way of a meaningful relationship, then by all means, go for what you know. Go for broke, if you will. And the first man coming down the pike, ladies, jump on him. If that's what you want. Some hardhead, some thuggish guy, someone wearing their pants down past their behind, uh, smelling like tobacco because they're reeking of it, or they are a constant drinker. You know, somebody who goes as a bad boy. If that's what you're looking for, then that's what you're going to get. But you can't bring any real value out of that situation. I didn't mean to get on top of a soapbox on this particular subject, because what I really want to talk about is the conversation part, but I guess I'm sort of crescendoing into this. But on the flip side of that, and you guys, I know you saw her at the club, you saw her at the grocery store, you were in the bank, maybe even in the park while you were jogging. There's many of you that might be doing that. Not. In a lot of instances, not. Maybe you saw her at the gym, Planet Fitness, maybe. Wherever you saw her at, it just popped out at you, the curvature in her body. Maybe she has a big booty. Maybe she's just the right size. Maybe you like them plump. I don't know. Whatever it is that draws you to this woman physically, the physical attraction, you better beware, because you might not be getting what you are looking for. In other words, initially you might be drawn towards her physically from that attraction, but is she worth it down the road? And I come to find out over the years that uh, women say and they do things that they think would make the man happy initially during the meeting, as it were, when you first meet up or bump into each other. And men do the same thing. In other words, we are both actors, and oftentimes we are great actors. Not all the time, but oftentimes we're great actors. We put up this image that we want that other individual to see and to believe. And once we get together, it could be a hot night, sexually speaking, at some point in time, hopefully not the same night you meet. But anyway, after you have gotten to know one another, and then later on, you find yourself disliking each other, one another, because you find out that you just simply don't fit. You're not compatible at all. But there are some that are okay with that type of relationship where you have conflict, where you have disagreements, because you both are carrying some form of baggage. And that baggage kind of weighs out sort of even, because you are carrying maybe equal amounts of baggage. That means your past with you. Guys that have burned you, ladies, or guys that you have maybe flaunted yourself around, several dates and stuff like this. And then guys, it could be the same thing. You dated so many women, but you have baggage. Maybe you have a couple baby mamas and this kind of thing. But you sort of tolerate each other. Some people are okay with a relationship like that. But I'm talking about having a meaningful relationship in perpetuity. If you want something that's going to last forever or nearly forever. Now, my subject is the proper way for couples to have a discussion without fighting. That was the premise of this whole video. Wherever you find yourself in the type of relationship that you have, hopefully that I pray that you have a wholesome relationship, one that's amicable as it relates to how you deal with one another, and that you share your thoughts and your ideas and your feelings with one another mutually. And it's not one-sided, and it's not a domineering thing. Either the man trying to control his companion or future companion, and not the woman trying to do the same. It's never and should never be about control. It should be about respecting one another's space. So, when you have conversations and you're talking about what I like to term as the issues of life, if it's dealing with the children, that's one. If there are children involved on both sides, or just one person has children when you get together. If it's dealing with finances, that's a biggie. Actually, they're both big ones. When you're dealing with finances, that is a very sensitive and touchy subject, because we need money to survive in the world in which we live. You can't do anything without money. Money can cause you to be stressed out. Even situations with your children and your family in general. Even in-laws, if you're married. It could be issues that you're having on your job. Husbands spending a lot of time at work trying to help make ends meet, burning a whole lot of midnight oil, as they say. Maybe even has a second job. And ladies, you might feel like you're being slighted, or that you're not getting enough attention. Let's just simply cut to the chase and get to the conversation, okay? Whenever. Now, I'm going to leave some space, some room for some future conversation on this particular topic again. But as it relates to dealing with each other in a conversation, how do you conversate with one another without going off? From my experience, my personal experience over the years, and from my experience with people that I have known and even talked to and even counseled over the years, you have to come to some middle ground and understand that you both are valuable. And both your perspectives and both your feelings do indeed matter. Now, I don't care if ladies who are really emotional creatures, more so than men, we both are, but you are more emotional or more emotionally driven than men are. You carry your feelings a lot on your sleeve, and you have a tendency to become very boisterous, very loud, and very angry, and you want to act out a lot of times. And guys sometimes just don't know how to deal with that. And then the guys, because they don't know how to deal with it, they become very defensive and sometimes angry and begin to shout. You cannot communicate effectively if you are both talking at the same time. That's it. You can't communicate if you don't allow one person to speak and then you hold your peace and you listen. And make sure you listen, even if it's something that you don't agree with, you listen. This has everything to do with character. And it's difficult. It's very difficult for many of us. But you must learn how to be a good listener. And once they finish speaking, then it's your turn. And you speak. Notice the tone that I have right now. You speak around that level. Not animated and very loud. I have a tendency when I'm speaking, trying to express myself, I will accentuate or speak a little loud. I'm not shouting though. That's just my personality. See, I'm not talking to anyone directly now other than the camera. So I'm not expressing that. But when I'm talking and I'm getting a point across, it can be perceived sometimes that I'm loud or that I'm yelling, and I'm not. My composure is pretty much the same. I'm just expressing my point of view. So that's okay. As long as you're not yelling and name calling and trying to demean your partner, trying to find fault. If there is indeed any fault, be subtle and express how you feel about whatever the topic is or the situation is in that conversation. If it's about finances, don't say that you're good for nothing, this and that, and you don't want to do it. No, it's not about that. You see, when you first got together, you were not at each other's throats. There was something that brought you together. And you withstood the test of time up until a certain point. You need to learn what got you together in the first place. And the type of, not personality, but the type of spirit that you embodied at that moment, you need to go back to that. That kindness, utilizing courtesy and respect for the other human being in front of you. That's what you need to do. You know, I know this sounds sort of cliche-ish, and you may have heard me say it before. Life is short. We've all heard that expression before. I'm going to tell you this. There is nothing like being so full of pride and having such a swollen ego that you can't say you're sorry. And that you can't tell the person how you feel in a kind, affectionate, compassionate, and empathetic way when warranted. But it's always easier to be raging, to be loud and animated. But you're always doing this and I can't stand. No, time out for that. You may as well you may as well just leave one another then, because you're not going to accomplish anything. If there are children involved in your life that are living with you and you're together, take them, minimally take them into consideration and say, we're doing this for the children, trying to keep our relationship together. Now, while I'm saying this about keeping the relationship together, remember this. This is very important. If your partner does not love you, or even does not love you any longer, as hard as it is to say this, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to part. We should not have to live on this earth in a situation, in a so-called uh, arrangement where we can't stand one another, or you can't stand me, or I can't stand you. We shouldn't. It's not fair to either of you. So if your partner has expressed to you openly, I can't stand your guts, I wish you leave, get out of the house, or I'm going to move, or whatever, it's time to go. Sometimes we can say things as a impulse, and we can go back later and say, you know what, I was sorry, I didn't mean that. But is it really true? Only you know your circumstance or your situation, because you have experienced that person over a period of time. But go by your gut and go by what you know and what you have felt before, your previous experiences with that individual. And then you come to a conclusion and say, I'm being honest with myself. I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses. I truly believe that they don't love me, or don't love me anymore. So it is best that I leave or they leave. It's really that simple. Even though it's difficult to sever those ties because you have that history together. But if there is any way that you can keep your relationship together, and it's not a matter of one or the other saying that I can't stand your guts and I want to leave. If it's not that situation, then by all means try to reconcile and get it together. Learn to talk to one another and say, listen, dear, listen, sweetheart, listen, baby, I would like to talk about this particular subject, whatever that subject is. And no subject should ever be taboo. No subject should ever be so sensitive that you can't talk to your other half about it without them going off the deep end, or acquiescing and not wanting to speak about it or speak on it and walking away from it. That's not how you communicate. Now, if that be the case with the man, with the woman, or even in the same sex relationship or union, if that be the case, then you stop, you come back again at a later date and revisit that situation and try to talk about it again. But if it continues to happen, you know what's really going on. The individual that has the problem with what the subject is, or the other person or other partner discussing the subject, that individual has not grown up. And it has everything to do with a lack of maturity. That's really what it is. So, in my conclusion, in all of this little ranting for the moment, how do you have a conversation with your partner without fighting? You both, and I'm speaking to both sides, you both make a declaration within yourself and say, I plan to go sit down with my significant other, my partner, my other half, and have a conversation about this particular issue. And I'm not having any preconceived notions, and I'm not coming in swinging a sword, and I'm not coming in with the idea that I'm going to attack their person. You both have to see it that way. And someone has to take the helm and control the dialogue in the beginning and say, listen, let's talk. I would like to talk about this. It doesn't matter what time it is or how long the conversation takes. You shouldn't look at your watch and, well, we got 10 minutes. It doesn't work that way. Not if you want to have a meaningful relationship and ongoing. A clock doesn't matter. What time it is doesn't matter. If it takes you an hour in the conversation, fine. 2 hours, that's fine. 10 minutes. If it solves the issue or helps to resolve the issue, that's fine. But don't let time be the issue. Let getting to the root cause of your problems be the issue, and trying as much as you possibly can to resolve those problems and or issues. So now, are you ready, ladies and gentlemen, to have that conversation with one another and doing it out of love for one another and not clashing and not having the mindset that, oh, I'm going to tell him what's on my mind. Oh no, girlfriend got something coming to her because she did me wrong. Okay, all right. The outcome is never going to be good if you approach it that way. Just remember, approach your conversation, plan it out first, decide on the day and the time, or a part of the day, and just do it. And if it doesn't work the first time because one or the other or both become very emotional, and it's okay to be emotional, but I'm saying emotional to the point where you're both erratical, then you need to want to table that and come back again at a later date, try it again. And I guarantee you, if you approach the situation and the conversation with the intent of expressing love during it, the outcome is going to be much better. This is Brother Teacher. If you are having problems communicating with your mate, think on these things. Okay? I'll see you in the next video. Take care.